I told you that faith isn't just a matter of believing harder, but rather responding to something very real? Just like for the characters of our favorite anime and comic books and video games, there's a moment where the truth hits us dead center, and there's a conviction that rises up that pushes us to move forward. And today on Geek Devotions, we're going to talk about what true biblical faith is and why it is so essential to us and how it changes everything. Hello, Devoted Geeks, and welcome to Geek Devotions, a show from Devoted Geeks who are devoted to let you know you're loved. I'm Dallas. I'm so glad you've hit the play button today. If you are new to our show, we take geek, pop culture items like movies, video games, and comic books, and we use it to let people know that they're loved. So if you don't watch past this moment, know this: we love you, we care about you. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Do not give up. So today is the start of a special 4-week series that we're doing here at Geek Devotions about faith. Now, for context, I preached a sermon a few weeks ago about faith, and I broke things down in a very specific way. And what we're going to do for the next 4 weeks is I'm going to take each one of those points and we're going to do a video per point for you guys. Now, I want you to understand these all kind of lean into each other. So it's going to be important for you guys to follow along. So maybe a good time for you to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell at the same time. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about what is faith, what is saving faith, what is the fruit of the Spirit known as faithfulness, and then finally, what is the gift of faith? And these 4 things, guys, they come together in a very special and unique way that I find fascinating. So what is faith? Well, fortunately for us, there's a biblical definition for faith that we find in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now, for context of this passage, this is the quote-unquote, the hall of faith. This is like all of the superheroes of faith that the church has that were presented in the scriptures, right? And these are people that they were normal people that did something spectacular as they walked things out in faith. And in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, the writer says this: "Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen." Now, faith in of itself does not exist in a vacuum. It's actually a combination of things that exist in a very special way. It's actually elements of the past affecting the present that push us into the future, if you will. And it's a special relationship of all these things coming together. Faith is not something we just have. It's something we live out. It's something we walk in. And I want to break down, kind of help you guys to understand the elements, past, present, and future today. Within that one verse of Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, we have a really great breakdown as a whole of what faith is. But I want to pan back a little bit further. If you look back at the entirety of the chapter of Hebrews 11, we see it kind of really played out for us. If you look at Hebrews chapter 11 and read all those people, these people didn't just, magically wake up one day and go, "I'm going to do something amazing." No, there was a process took place. Every one of these people in that list heard the testimony of God, whether it was from him directly or from generations past that came down to him. This idea of hearing the testimony of God stirring something inside of us is biblical. If you go back to Romans chapter 10, verse 17, it says, "So faith comes from hearing, and hearing through the words of Christ." We have to hear the testimony of God. There has to be something from the past of who God is that comes to us in order for faith to really begin to grow. Go back to Hebrews chapter 11, go back to the list. Look at Abel. He literally grew up hearing the testimonies of who God was from his parents. Genesis chapter 6 tells us that Noah was a godly man who grew up serving God in this interesting time frame. Go back to Joshua chapter 1, verse 8, when the walls of Jericho fell down. Joshua and the tribe of people, when they walked around those walls, they had already had in their hands the law. They had given to them the law of God. They had the testimony of who he was. In Joshua chapter 2, 9 verses 11, before they begin that march, you hear the story of Rahab. Rahab had faith in our God, but she had never known God, but she heard the testimonies of our God. She heard the testimony of how God had led the people of Israel out of captivity. She heard the testimonies of all the things that God had done. Go back to that list and you will see every one of these people had a testimony of God given to them before they had responded and acted out in whatever God had for them. But this aspect of the past is purely an intellectual exercise. Faith of itself is not an intellectual exercise on its own. Intellectualism can only get you so far. It is not really faith in of itself. which leads us to the second part, which is the present. Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, conviction of things not seen. This is where a person moves from a very intellectual thing of receiving and understanding what God has done, what he is doing, what he is saying, and then it begins to take root in ourselves. There is an emotional response that leads to conviction of who God is. Conviction is not a thought. It's not an intellectual thing. It is an emotion that we feel that grips our very inner being. I know there's a bad rap out there for emotionalism, and it's understandable, but emotion of itself is not bad. Conviction is an emotion in of itself. It's something that grips us deep in our soul and our spirit. In Matthew chapter 13, Jesus is giving an illustration about the sower throwing seeds to different sides. And he talks about how one of the plants receives the word of the Lord with joy. That's an emotion that takes place. Now, yes, I'll give the caveat that this particular plant, that when it grows, it says that it basically, because it has no roots, it dies out. But again, that's a whole nother conversation to take place, because here's the deal. I'm not telling you that faith is an emotional thing either. It's not just intellectualism. But it's also not just emotionalism that takes place in the life of a believer. If you lean into one or the other too far, you're out of balance. It's not real faith. This is now where these things come together. You have the past and the present coming together, leading into the future. Hebrews 11 verse 1 says this, the assurance of things hoped for. When we are sure of things, we step forward with confidence. Think about Peter Parker when he first started playing with the web shooters ideas. In the first movie that we see back in the early 2000s, he's up on a rooftop and he's just trying to figure out things. He knows logically that there's these things that come out of his hands, or these webbings that he can shoot, and he goes and he says dumb things like, go web, go. He feels silly for doing this, but finally there's this thing that comes out of him and it sticks to a wall and he goes, wait a minute. This happens. All of a sudden, things are beginning to build up inside of him. Now he not only has a testimony of that there's something comes out of him, but there's something that has strength to it. And now that he sees that there's strength into it, now he steps forward into something spectacular. He takes a step of faith, literally, and trusts in what he has seen and heard. And he tries to take a swing. Now, stepping out in faith, it's not always easy. It's sometimes very scary things. And sometimes you might hit a wall, like Peter Parker does. But the more we step out in faith, the more confidence we have, and the easier things begin to take place in our lives. The easier it is to do what needs to happen. This is the substance of faith. This is what faith is. It is this aspect of the past, the testimonies of God, the testimonies of what God has done and what he is doing. And we need to be around that aspect of the past. We need to be hearing it from people. We need to have men and women in our lives who are sharing regularly what God is doing in them. We need to be sharing what God is doing in our lives with the people around us. And as that takes place, we need to hear these stories and let them take root in our lives to help us become convicted and convinced of what God is and what he is doing, putting our trust in him, putting our trust in the testimony of who he is. And as we allow these elements to stir up the emotion and intellectualism, we have to take a step. We have to step out and going, I've heard of what God is doing. I'm convinced that it's real. It is time to actually trust in these things and step out. And when these three things take place, this is where faith becomes real. Like I said, it's scary at first. It's awkward. It's like, I'm not sure about this, but when we do it, begin to swing with confidence. Maybe not so much grace at first, but with a little bit of grace down the road as we continue to do it. I think back to my mentors and to the people I've seen, and I see them doing these amazing things. And I'm going, how do I do that? How can I be like them? But then I hear the stories of their growing and how they stepped out in things and their failures, but also how they learned from those things. And then I go, oh man, I understand. And it builds up something inside of me, and I go, all right, so I'm going to do it. And I step out. And what's cool about this is I step out then and I see it take place. And I maybe hit a wall. But then I go back and was like, wait a minute. Now the testimony is my testimony. Now I know I stepped out. I know how God had led me to the point and how there was a lot of great things that took place. And I'm convicted that it's still a thing. And I've convicted about the fact that, well, it didn't work out because I did this. But now I'm adjusting and now I'm stepping out with more confidence and faith to swing forward into what God has for me. My friends, I want to encourage you. Step out in faith. Grab hold of the testimony of God. Let it convict you in this moment and step out and swing forward what God has for you, because this is what faith really looks like. I hope this made sense for you guys in trying to figure out what faith is. I want to encourage you guys, join us for this journey for the next couple of weeks as we kind of talk about how faith affects other aspects. We're going to talk about in this next episode of Geek Devotionals I'll present about saving faith. What is actually taking place in saving faith? Question of the day for you guys. I want to hear your testimony. Leave it in a comment down below about a moment where you had to step out in faith and how God worked that out with you. Leave that comment down below. Let your story encourage somebody. Leave that intellectual exercise of you stepping, of that testimony about you stepping out in faith, become the present moment where it convicts somebody so they can make a future response thanks to your testimony of who God is. I'll remind you guys this lesson I'm going to be at 2 conventions this August. First off, August 2nd, we're going to be at the Credo Homeschooling Co-op Convention on August 2nd at Emmanuel Baptist Church here in Shreveport, Louisiana. And then on August 22nd to 24th, we're going to be at GeekCon here in Shreveport, Louisiana. I want to encourage you guys, come by our booths, shake our hands, let us pray with you, love on you, share our hearts, and share what Geek Devotions really is with you guys there in person. We want to take pictures with you guys too if you have to be cosplayed at GeekCon. I don't know if you do cosplay over at Credo Homeschool Convention. That'd be kind of cool. I'm not sure what you cosplay as that, but over there, but hey, maybe you will be. I'll remind you guys that being able to do these conventions is only possible thanks to our devoted Patreon geeks. Thanks to them, we're able to do these trips, to do GeekCon, to do Credo and other awesome events, and then at the same time have the equipment that we do to create Geek Devotions. And if you'd like to become a devoted Patreon geek or find other ways to help support Geek Devotions, go to our website, geekdevotions.com. That being said, we want to invite you guys to be part of our community, be part of our Discord channel, be part of our Facebook group, Devoted Geek Life, and take part in the community. This is where we pray for each other. This is where we encourage each other. This is where we do life as geeks together in these various spaces. Geek Devotions doesn't exist without you guys, without you amazing devoted geeks. The point is to love on you. And if you're not present, we can't do that. So be present, be part of the community. Let us know how we can do life with you. All that being said, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay devoted. Peace and love.